The Subaru WRX holds its value like no other car on the car market. Well, maybe if we cut out the cars that are over $200,000 and literally hold their value because they're collector's items and there's only like 200 of them, the WRX objectively holds its value better than any other car. And I'm gonna go as far as saying it's almost like an automotive investment. Not an investment that you're gonna make money on. Well, you can. I've made money on every WRX that I've ever owned, maybe minus this one, but I'll probably actually sell it with a new jump in prices for pretty competitively to what I bought it for. But with that said, I've basically spent the last week doing a full financial analysis on the auto market, and I'm here to deliver you some pretty juicy news on why the WRX is probably the car that's gonna hold its value the longest and help you kind of step up in sports cars the most. This will actually be a pretty juicy video, and I know a lot of you guys are like, this is an automotive channel, why are we talking about financials? Well, if you ever want to drive a Nissan GTR or a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, or just a nicer and faster car than you currently drive, or you want to buy a WRX, or you just want to drive a sports car, I'm going to give you the rundown on why this car should be your next car to be able to do that, and actually some key information. And if you're an owner already, this will give you a lot of information about how long you should hold your car and basically everything you need to know. But honestly, there's some really interesting stuff in this video. So I know, bear with me. I know it's a bit of financial, it's a little data driven, but it's gonna be an interesting video, I promise. The WRX does something that's beautiful. It allows you to step up in vehicles. The average vehicle loses an astonishing amount of money during your ownership, right? People always say vehicles are negative assets, you're gonna lose money. Well, that is kind of true even with the Subaru WRX, but your coefficient of loss, meaning how much this car will depreciate over time and over mileage, is radically different than any other car in the market for a multitude of reasons. I'm gonna tell you those reasons, but I'm also gonna tell you the data around this car. I swear there's a bird fight happening somewhere, so I apologize if you guys can hear me. They don't want you to hear me, they just want you to hear them. But one of the beautiful things about the WRX is you will retain enough value in this car that when you move on to your next car, you're gonna have some inherent value, much more than any other platform, and it'll help you step up in your vehicle if that's something you wanna do, or you just wanna protect your money, right? Nobody likes losing money, so it's something to think about. To give you perspective, I bought a truck a couple years ago, like 2 years ago now, and I spent $19,000 on the truck. Fortunately, I sold it at the right time and sold it for $19,000 after driving it for about 8 months. Again, I played the equity game, I fixed a few things on it, but I just ran the KBB today. It's been 24 months since I bought that truck, and with the same mileage, assuming I didn't change the mileage, it's only worth $7,200 now. So the market on that truck has changed over 12 grand, which was well over 50% of a loss, which means I would have lost like $13,000 in 2 years. Now, yeah, there's some like inflation in the market, whatever, but most cars do that, right? You see cars get junked, you see cars like, you know, go for sale for a couple grand. That never happens with the WRX. You have a bottom. There is a bottom. You'll never go below that. And that bottom is like 4 times the cost of other cars when they get to the bottom and they're sold for scrap. So at the very least, you're gonna protect your asset and have some money. If you drive it into the ground, you're not actually driving into the ground because you can still sell something at the end of it, even if it's basically in the ground. So let's get into the data. So I got my paper here because I did a full study, and I actually did, like, there's a lot of Excel spreadsheets that ramify this data, but now I got some notes for myself. So things that make it, you know, worth some money. One, it's a sports car. I know that sounds stupid, but sports cars have intrinsic value because they're delivering something more than the common car. And that's the one thing to consider. All the other things that you're gonna hear from me, I also want you to tag sports car next to them because that's what's really critical. All-wheel drive, and not just all-wheel drive, quite literally, in my opinion, and the opinion of almost all engineers and every automotive enthusiast out there, the best all-wheel drive system that you can buy right now on the market in terms of something that goes on a sedan and you're not doing like mountain climbing, right? The best all-wheel drive. And then again, pair that with the fact it's a sports car, right? Which is insane value for dollars. But all-wheel drive cars obviously hold their value longer because they have very strong utility value. It's 4 doors and it's a sports car, right? So it provides another subset of niche utility value. It's also basically an all-weather car. It can do anything, anywhere, it can drive in any conditions. And in fact, when it comes to snowy or raining conditions, specifically snowy, it will outperform most vehicles. The classic, I love it, was when you see WRXs with a tow hook dragging 4x4 trucks out of snowy ditches. It happens. I've seen a WRX get an 18-wheeler unstuck. Really stupid to do with your WRX, but I've seen it. Next is the aftermarket community. Whether you're into the sports car side, you want a rally car, you want something that's gonna be able to take you hiking and carry everything. The aftermarket community with the WRX is like no other community. There's no comparison. No other platform car is supported like the WRX or the Subaru WRX STI platform. And then lastly, I know that a lot of you guys are going to hate me saying this, but it's radically true, is reliability. In terms of sports cars, the VA and VB engine are some of the most reliable engines that you can buy and tune and run tuned. They're incredibly reliable and you very rarely have problems. And even if you're like tuned but not pushing the limits, like very low issues, right? When you look at other platforms, there are issues. And now here's where we get the juicy stuff, because here's where the finances come in. So what makes this car beautiful and what makes it hold value is it actually has an inflated bottom. And what I'm using this term inflated bottom to mean that the bottom is actually where people that are really into the car or into the sports car scene want you scoop up shells, engines, transmissions, so they're worth something, right? So this car will never really die, right? It's never going to be worth nothing. And because so many people like this and the community is so strong, and it has been strong for the last 20 plus years, people like almost fight after it. When a WRX like dies or it's getting close to end of life, people like me are like making bids, trying to buy it from the person because I want to build a shell or I want to build a race car, which creates some level of competition for these cars when they're dead, when other cars literally go to die. To give you perspective, a blown engine WRX, meaning a WRX that has a blown engine and does not run, it is non-functional, you need to replace it with a $10,000, $12,000, $13,000 engine, still is going to cost you between $5,000 and $9,000. Yes, you heard me. A blown engine WRX, depending on the mileage, could cost anywhere from $5,000 to $9,000, depending on how the transmission is. So there you go. In almost its worst condition, the WRX is probably worth $5,000 to $9,000, right? When you lose the most critical and expensive component of the car. A good engine, but a wrecked WRX, meaning like, let's say it's been in a wreck and it's totaled, but it has a good engine, you're $9,000 to $15,000. Now you might ask, well, if the engine is only like, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, if you pull it from the car, where does the other money come from? Even in a wreck, there's so much that you can strip from this car, wiring, harnesses, all of these other things that go into these cars when you're rebuilding them and doing all that stuff. You can usually scrape together $9,000 to $15,000, depending on the wreck, whether it was submerged in water, whether it was on fire. Yeah, you heard me, it's nuts. And then let's talk about high mileage WRXs. We're gonna look at the VA generation WRX, which is 2015 through 2021. If you want a VA WRX that has 100,000 miles on it, which most people these days, like that's not super high, but you're getting there, you're gonna pay between 12 and 20 grand, depending on the condition of the car and any modifications. If you want a 150,000 mile WRX, right, between the years of 2015 to 2021, you're gonna pay $11,000 to $16,000. For anyone else driving a car with 150,000 miles on it, name me a car that didn't cost $100,000 new that's worth that much with 150,000 miles on it. And no, you can't say a truck that can be used for a business because that doesn't count. Normal people don't use business trucks for stuff like that. And this is where it gets really interesting. A WRX with 200,000 miles or 200 plus thousand miles, which most cars you would consider like that's done. Like that car needs to be replaced, it's done. If it's running, 10 to 14 grand. Yes, you heard me. $10,000 to $14,000 with $200,000 on it. That is the market price. Now you might ask me, where's this information coming from? I collected data from the last couple years on basically all sold WRXs over all platforms. This is including private sale, which most of you guys are going to argue, oh, these are inflated because they're coming from dealers. This includes private sale. I went through data on things like Cars and Bids, Facebook Marketplace, eBay. I basically collected all private sale data as much as I possibly could, and that's where these numbers are coming from. With that said, I've also been trying to buy a wrecked WRX or a WRX with a bad engine or any of those things, and I literally can't because I'm trying to pay these prices and I can barely pay these prices because I live in a high cost of living city. So the short answer is the WRX is going to hold its value like no other car. Yeah, it's not going to hold like if you like, the car isn't a super expensive car, so you're not holding a ton of value, but let's say you buy the car used and you spend $25,000 on it and you drive it for 6 years and then you sell it for, $20,000 or $18,000. The same if you were to buy a Honda Civic or something like that, or even just like a Mustang or, like anything like that, or a GTI or something like that, you're gonna have a significant larger loss in financial value. And part of this is I looked at all these comparable platforms. I didn't even have to look at the average car. Well, I did. I used the Mazda 3 the Honda Civic and the Ford Focus as examples, those just lost so much value that it's not even worth talking about because they die. They quite literally, 200,000 mile Mazda 3 is worth like $2,500, right? I mean, that's what they're selling for. That's what you can buy one for. And that's a car that costs $27,000 new or something, you know? So your loss of value is insane. This is just never gonna happen. So it's gonna protect your investment. Now, is it an investment? No, but is it as much of a depreciating asset as every other car people talk about? Absolutely not. And I'm not also making this video to like inflate WRX ownership because it's not like a stock, you know, I'm not trying to inflate something. It's just reality. So it's something to think about. Like if you have your dream car and you're like, I want this, but I can't save enough money and life would be boring saving for 4 years and not driving something fun, you can go and drive a WRX and have a lot of fun with it and not lose all your money, right? So that's actually why I got into the WRX platform at first. I love the WRX and that's why I've stayed, because actually on my first 2 WRXs, I've profited on them, because as Subaru raises the prices for new WRX, it kind of inflates the used price market, and I've always made money on them. I made $4 grand on my first one, I made $7 grand on my second one. I will probably lose a little bit of money on this one because I bought it brand new. But with the way that prices are being inflated on the new WRXs, I might sell it even. There's not a lot of miles on it. I probably am gonna end up selling this car in a year with like 20,000 miles on it, 25,000 miles on it. So something to think about. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you liked it, drop a comment, like the video, and I will see you guys in the next one.